Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Bezan. This is our 92nd episode. It's been an absolute journey with you guys. I thank you guys so much for your support, and especially for the people that took the time and effort to send their videos in that we've sent it to Sadar Ozmoon. Please check that out. It's all over our social media feed. Just emotional support we want to give to Sadar Ozmoon. Unfortunately, he's received unjust criticism from some fickle Iranian fans, unfortunately, on social media, or just put it, keyboard warriors. And for you to take the time and send us this video that we sent to the player, and he's been absolutely ecstatic about it. Thank you guys so much. The last episode, if you may or may not heard, Babak Agori's on Pejman Parts did an in-depth analysis of the Spain match against Iran, so definitely check that out if you haven't done so. Today, we're joined by the fantastic Tom Gundard, Portuguese football expert that you may have heard in the last few months ago that we pretty much did an episode on him, pretty much telling us about Portugal's journey to the World Cup, how they got here, about Mr. Saunders, because they're the European champions. He's on this episode of Gold Bezan, and we have Arya Aloverdi to do a preview of Iran's World Cup final, pretty much, against Portugal. So, as always, we appreciate the support. We hope you enjoyed this latest episode. It's going to be a long one, so we apologize for that, but it's just we're so ecstatic about this upcoming match that there was a lot to be said. There was a lot of joy in the discussion. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy. Hi, folks. As you're listening right now, I'm joined with Arya Aloverdi of Gold Bezan and the great, one of my close friends as well, Tom Gundard, all the way from Lisbon. Tom, it's an absolute fantastic honor to have you on it again. Pleasure to meet you in Lisbon in person as well. How you been?
Yeah, I've been great. Absolutely loving this World Cup. Some fantastic games. And my congratulations to Iran. They've been superb. I think they've impressed everyone all around the world with how they've performed, especially that game against Spain. And great to speak to you again, Pasha and Arian. And look forward to speaking about how things may pan out in this next match.
Fantastic, Tom. Thank you very much. It really means a lot to us, and it's just been absolutely sensational. Absolutely, the work that Carlos Queiroz has done, especially considering the fact that we haven't had much of a preparation with the friendlies, matches getting canceled, and he's gotten us this far. The world has been shocked, and we're just very delighted about that, to basically show Iranian football to the world. But Tom, just to get into the gist of things, if you could just tell the listeners, about Portugal's last two matches from what you've seen, how the media feels about it. I was really shocked to see how. Morocco's a fantastic team, but the last match, especially in the second half, Morocco really, really, really came out on top, and unfortunately they didn't have a clinical striker. But some worrisome situation happening between, maybe the players, the staff members, and the media in Portugal.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting because there's a complete sway in kind of the mood and let's even say the levels of optimism from one game to the next. Because after Portugal's fantastic opening game against Spain, of course, most people said that was a draw, but a draw which felt like a victory, especially, that last gasp equaliser and Ronaldo, just an absolutely extraordinary performance. In contrast, against Morocco, Portugal got the win, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I think nobody here in Portugal is even disputing the fact that Portugal were very much second best really throughout that whole game, and very lucky to get the 3 points. And so people are saying that was actually a victory which felt a bit more like a defeat. And so, yeah, there's quite a lot of concern here in Portugal. They especially as Ronaldo's basically doing it on his own so far. We need a lot of the other players to step up. They really haven't performed at all, especially the younger players who so much was expected from. Players like Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, even Gonçalo Guedes, perhaps been a little better than those first two I mentioned. But all of those three players, people are very excited going into this World Cup, thinking they could really make a name for themselves. And all of them really have looked very nervous and really, to be honest, look like they've got a bit of stage fright. So, yeah, people are worried. Of course, they're speaking a lot about, everyone saw how Iran performed so
Tom?
Spain, and perhaps a bit unlucky not to get the draw. And Carlos Queiroz has been on Portuguese TV quite a lot. He's been very see he's really upbeat, is in a good mood, is being very accommodating to the Portuguese media as well, giving some, quite interesting quotes, basically just saying that, praising Portugal and saying what a good squad they've got, but he'll be doing everything he can to, try and get Iran to get the result they need. And so, yeah, I'd say a bit of trepidation. Of course, having said all that, with all due respect, Portugal are European champions, and they do expect to get the result they need against Iran. But certainly, it's not. Nobody thinks it's going to be a foregone conclusion.
Right. And Tom, thank you again for your thoughts. And just looking back at this Group B, which has been absolutely entertaining so far. I mean, this whole World Cup, to be honest, has been, I think, the tournament of underdogs. It's just been sensational to watch. What have you made out of this group? Have you been shocked yourself to see how well, even Morocco, despite the fact that, they're out, but they've performed so well, and then you have Iran. If you look back to our conversation we had in Lisbon, I said that a lot of people are going to be shocked, not just because it's a reigning national, because, as you mentioned, Carlos Queiroz is Iran's biggest weapon. And, how would you say, like, in the media that, people are shocked how well that Iran and Morocco have done?
Maybe shock's going a little bit too far, because we knew before the tournament started that, these were four good teams in this group. Obviously, Portugal and Spain were the favourites. I don't think anyone disputed that. But as Fernando Santos was saying time and time again before this World Cup, if people think this is an easy group, they're going to get a surprise. As in Portugal, we've probably got the toughest, the best team in Africa and the best team in Asia in this group. Having said that, coaches have a tendency to talk up the opposition, even just to try and alleviate a bit of pressure on their team. And so there was a thought, these are going to be two tough games, but Portugal, will probably come out on top. I think, basically, what we've seen so far just proves that Fernando Santos was absolutely right. Two very high-quality teams, Morocco and Iran. And I think, especially Morocco, you've got to feel a bit sorry for them, really, because I think perhaps both of their games, they've been the better side. Certainly against Portugal they were. I think probably even against Iran the first game, though that was quite even. I think Morocco can feel very hard done by to lose that, and they're on their way home. So I think that just shows you, what a tough tournament this is. The old cliche, there are no easy games nowadays. I'm not sure if I quite agree with that. There are a few easy games, but certainly in this group, no easy games at all.
Right. Arya, coming back to you, my friend, as what Tom has mentioned, what do you make out of, this group, and especially considering the fact that we have Portugal next?
It's an interesting group, I think Iran's win against Morocco, it really improved things for us going forward now against, Spain. Obviously, you didn't get the result against Spain that we wanted to win, even to get a point from them, but the wins push us in a position that we can really, now go to Portugal and put a performance that we have to win the game. It's we could get a draw if Morocco beat Spain 2-0. We could get a draw. It's just too hearsay for me. I think we have to go and try and beat Portugal. But the group's interesting. Morocco's probably been disappointing in terms of a team that we know who have talent, who have quality. But in the final third, their strikers haven't really, in my opinion, done a lot. I think the player who played for Barcelona, I think it was Munir El Haddadi. I think if he was in the squad, it would have been good for them. But the fact that they're missing a striker, it's really been a shame, because they do have the quality. I think Iran's obviously, everyone's like Tom just said there, they've been a very defensively astute team. They've worked hard. Not only, I don't think, in the attack and in defence, but when they have attacked, they've looked dangerous as well. When they've wanted to really push forward in attack and win the game, they have looked dangerous. I think some people are thinking Iran's parking the bus, but I think against Spain, against Morocco, when we have actually attacked the game, we haven't been too bad. And I think that Portugal, they've got Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't think they've been a great team. If I'm going to be honest, I don't think Portugal have a great defence. I don't think they've done well in some of against Spain. They struggled against Diego Costa. It showed that they're a bit weak there. And Rafael Guerreiro looked a bit leaky in the last game. But I think in the attack, they're very, very tough to deal with, especially with their the top man. So we'll see what happens on Monday. But I think it will be definitely a tough game. But Iran don't have. It won't be the same game against Spain for sure.
Tom, coming back to you, my friend, the big difference that I've seen, and please correct me if I'm wrong, between Portugal and Spain, I feel like Spain, obviously being such a silky team, nice touches, smooth on the ball, I think it actually helped Iran more because, it let us, keep our shape defensively. But as you know, the likes of Portugal, I feel like they're much more pacey players with the likes of Guedes, Ronaldo, and then I certainly believe that Bernardo Silva won't start. On the right, I believe that maybe it'll be Gelson. I believe they're gonna come at us with pace. What do you make out of that? And do you think what have you made out of Iran's defensive structure?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because Portugal have these fabulously gifted midfielders, but none of them have really shown the talent they've got. One thing about this midfield is that it does actually lack a bit of pace. You're right about Guedes and Ronaldo, but if they're up top, they don't really get the chance to use that pace a lot. So for this reason, I actually agree with you. I think I've been saying this to a few other people as well, and in our own podcast, I actually expect Gelson to start, Gelson Martins, in place of Bernardo Silva, just to give that extra pace, and also because Bernardo Silva, to be honest, has been very disappointing. I think it's possibly been Portugal's worst player this tournament so far, and it's just absolutely bewildering because he is a brilliant player. He's so talented. He's probably Portugal's most talented player. A lot of people think Portugal's most talented player since Cristiano Ronaldo. He's got so much hopes that he will really, maybe after Ronaldo, he'll be the man to carry this team. But this tournament, he just hasn't done it at all. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if Gelson comes in for Bernardo Silva on the right wing, and maybe Portugal play a bit more of a 4-3-3 to try and just get an injection of pace. It's very interesting there, Arian, saying that Rafael Guerreiro struggled against Morocco, and he's absolutely right. He had a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. I'm not sure if that was all completely his fault. He was not really given any support by his teammates. And in contrast, if you ask about Iran, I think one player who really impressed me, forgive me for my pronunciation, but the right
No
back,
problem.
I think it's Ramin Razayin.
Yes, Rezayan.
Yeah, he was. I thought he was excellent, really good against Spain. Really tough. Defensively speaking, also good going forward, lending good support. And so, if Rafael Guerreiro, is one of Portugal's key players, really, but he had such a nightmare in that last game. He's also got a little bit of he sat out of training yesterday, had a little bit of a muscle strain. So hopefully he'll get over that, because I think even accounting for his bad game, he is Portugal's best left back. But if not, if he doesn't improve, and if Razayin has another great game, that could be a problem for Portugal, that flank, because they'll be obviously perhaps coming up against each other. I think Razayin, am I right in saying he's naturally quite a attacking right back? And so if he does that, then of course, if he advances up that flank, then it could be another tough day for Guerreiro.
I think even Arya would agree with me. I feel like every Team Medley fan, the people that really watch the national team would say that he's a much better player offensively as he's defensively, and I was pretty impressed with his performance. Rezayan always has one or a few moments, I would say, that he looked shaky, but he was just fantastic against Spain. Arya, is there anything you would like to add to Tom's point?
Yeah, I agree. I think Guerrero is, in my opinion, he's a midfielder. I think he was made as a left back when he went to Dortmund. Although he played there before in his younger career, I think he became a left back, to replace Schmelzer and etc. at Dortmund. I think in the Euros we saw when he played, he was very, very shaky, and I think a lot of the Team Medi fans will obviously, I think we'll be expecting Jahanbakhsh to start in this game because he got rested against Morocco because he had a yellow card, so he will start against Portugal. And I think if he does play as a right winger, and then we have Guerrero at left back, it will be a tough task because Rezayan and Jahanbakhsh do have a good partnership on the right hand side. They do combine really well, especially in the attacking third. So I think that could be quite a good avenue for Iran to explore and to create attacks. I also think you were saying about Gelson Martin starting as a right winger for for Portugal. In a 4-3-3, I think actually I don't think it's going to be easy for him either, because I think Haisafi is injured. The left back has been starting most of the games, but Milad Mohammadi will probably come in and play there. And Milad Mohammadi is no slouch in terms of pace either. So it will be a good battle between Gelson Martins and Milad Mohammadi, and that sort of left side for Iran. But we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a good battle on both flanks for both teams.
Tom, coming back to, just tactically speaking, to the, side of where Rafael plays as left back. As you know, one of our best players, are arguably right now the best player on form, but obviously with Queiroz's system, he hasn't done much as we all want him to do, as Ayreza Jahanbakhsh, and I believe that he's going to start. As you know, he's was considered one of the best players in the Dutch league. Scored 21 goals and I believe 13 assists, if I'm not mistaken, something ridiculous like that as a winger. And he's most likely going to go up against Rafael. But Tom, would you say, for, when it comes to, defensive structure and stuff, are your flanks the weak points, or would you say in the center midfield, which unfortunately I believe that it was really harsh that, William Carvalho got a lot of backlash from his, from the media and whatnot?
Well, it's interesting, because William Carvalho is really a player who polarises opinion completely. I personally think he's a superb player, and I think he's done pretty well this tournament so far. Actually, I think of Portugal's, other than Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, has been absolutely out of this world. The Portuguese players haven't played so well, but I think two of them who's done okay so far have been those two central midfielders, William Carvalho and João Moutinho. So I'd be quite surprised if they weren't selected again for this next game against Iran. You're right, Portugal tend to play a flat 4-4-2 under Santos, so that their wide players aren't really, genuine wide players or wingers. That's why we have usually João Mario or Bruno Fernandes on the left, and Bernardo Silva on the right, and certainly Mario and Fernandes. They're really central midfielders. That's where they shine. And even Bernardo Silva, a lot of people think his best position and maybe his natural evolution would see him end up as a number 10, although he does play in that right-hand side for Manchester City. And I think also most of his time at Monaco, he was there because he has the advantage that he can cut inside and use that, fantastic left foot to shoot or to dink some, clever little through balls through. So, it's not really the way Portugal play under Santos. There's very little width, and most of the width is provided by the fullbacks. But as we say, Guerreiro, for one reason or another, just doesn't seem to be on top form. Very interesting what Ariane said earlier as well. A lot of people here in Portugal are even suggesting perhaps they instead of playing João Mario or Bruno Fernandes on the left, they should actually push up Rafael Guerreiro and perhaps bring in the deputy left back or the second choice left back, Mario Rui, to that position, and that will give Portugal a better balance, a kind of natural wide left midfielder in the wide left midfielder position. And so, it's all kind of ifs and buts. I'd just like to throw one question to you, if you don't mind. I was very interested earlier. I'm not sure which one of you two said it, that you thought that Iran could approach this game in quite a different, quite a different style, because they obviously need a win. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, just looking at it, and most of the Portuguese media, and I tend to agree, think that probably Iran will pick more or less the same, will take more or less the same approach, because it's just an approach which has served them so well. Try and maybe keep it very tight, concentrate on being very defensively solid, and then try and nick a goal perhaps a little bit on the break against the run of play. Maybe, like you said, Ayreza doing a bit of magic, or Azmoun, who hasn't really been so good this tournament, but we know he's a very dangerous player. So do you really think they'll be a bit more adventurous this game, or do you think it will be similar?
Ari, do you want to first talk, and then I'll give my thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think I think Queiroz, he's always been saying that we have to play to our advantage. What we have as a team individually, what do we have, and what are we good at? And, we're good defensively. That's just what we're good at. In the past, past couple of years before Queiroz was a coach of Iran, we were trying to play attacking football. Play the beautiful game that Iran don't have. We don't have that kind of play. We have players who can do that, but we don't have players who can do it in a team like Iran. We have players like Omid Ebrahimi, Vahid Amiri, who are great. Players who will run for the team, but they're not going to make 10 assists a season. So Iran, unfortunately, it will be another boring game. They will try and play that sort of delayed football where they'll try and strangle the game to the point where Portugal will break out their shell and try to really attack and Iran hits them in the counter. But we'll see. I think I hope that we will maybe drop one of those midfielders, like maybe Vahid Amini gets dropped and someone like Salman Ghoddos or Dejaga comes in, just to give us a little bit of an option in the attacking third. Not to change too much, just one small tweak to give us a bit of an option in the attack. But I still think that we will play that same football because in the day, Portugal are a much stronger team. And they will be for sure the team with more possession, which Portugal haven't had in the first two games. So it will also be a different game for them as well, not just for Iran. So it's an interesting one.
Tom, basically, as I agree with Ario as well, I just want to talk about another thing is that if you look at Morocco and Spain, they're very good down the middle, and the goal we conceded unfortunately against Spain was the result of they played us down the middle, and Iran has done such a great job of nullifying that and basically stopping their style of play, so for them to attack from the flanks. And I think that was been a big advantage of Queiroz's tactics for not allowing this team to dictate in the middle, because I believe that with the lack of pace we have, with our center backs and everything, and Omid Ebrahimi, I believe is 30 if I'm not mistaken, but he's had a fantastic tournament. So that we're gonna pretty much play the same style of play and that we did against Spain, but I feel like it's gonna be more attacking in terms of gonna bring Adiozo Jahanbakhsh back into the fold. I don't think we're going to be as, defensively structured as we were against Spain. I think we're going to be a little bit, I would say, more expansive because we're going to go, it's our final, like Carlos Queiroz has pointed out to. But Tom, now talking about this, would you say that, looking at the Portuguese team, that you guys tend to, also attack from the flanks, or is it that like Spain and Morocco that you feel like with the structure you have right now under Santos, that you guys are much better down the middle? Because Iran has done such a great job of not allowing Morocco or Spain to do anything down the middle of the pitch, and I think that was the big advantage of this tournament for us that we've gotten so far.
Yeah, well, under Santos, generally Portugal haven't used, like I said, they've got some fantastic wingers. Of course, we haven't even talked about Ricardo Quaresma, who, although he's a bench player, he always seems to make an impact when he comes on. So they've got him. They've got Gelson Martins, who's probably one of the best wingers in Portugal. Quite a few top clubs rumoured to be after him. But generally, Fernando Santos has really focused on this. His whole strategy is based on playing on a flat, like I say, a flat back, flat midfield for central midfielders. Quite often, he picks basically and strings them across the field, and so we rely a lot on our fullbacks for providing width. And neither of them have been great, to be honest, this tournament, especially going forward. Cedric was very solid against Morocco defensively, but didn't really provide anything going forward. And so, actually, it's interesting for that reason. A lot of people are also speculating that perhaps Ricardo Pereira will get the nod at right back because in the one pre-tournament friendly he played against Tunisia, one of the features of that game was he linked up really well with Bernardo Silva, and that looked like a promising partnership. So that's a possibility. I think, like I say, Portugal tend to play with this flat midfield and then actually rely a little bit more on João Mario or Bernardo Silva trying to cut inside and release Ronaldo and Guedes with one of the clever ball through the middle, or perhaps even try for a shot themselves. So they're not really a team, certainly from the start, which looks to hit the flanks and sending cross after cross I'm not sure, again, because it's really Portugal offensively have been so disappointing this tournament. It's very difficult to know exactly what will happen in terms of how Santos will set them up. Will he really cause a bit of surprise and try and mix things up and try and get Portugal going by choosing a bit more pace and using the width more, or will he just go for his tried and trusted strategy? I suppose you've got to say such a key game. He'd probably stick to the strategy, which at the end of the day, even if the performances haven't been so good, is the strategy which has got him results ever since he's become Portugal manager.
Tom, do you think that maybe if we're going to go a bit more of a width, style, that they might play AC Milan striker Andre Silva next to Ronaldo, since he's had at the start of his career at Portugal he was quite good. Him and Ronaldo were linking up quite well. Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, good question. That's a question which a lot of people are asking here in Portugal, and again a question which is dividing opinion a lot. You're absolutely right. During qualification, Andre Silva was absolutely superb, especially with this chemistry he got going with Cristiano Ronaldo. They actually scored 24 goals between them in 9 qualifying games. Were absolutely superb, and a lot of their goals were, assisting each other. So Ronaldo assisting Andre Silva, or vice versa. And so that just seemed like a partnership, set in stone for years to come. Then what happened? Andre Silva got his big move to Milan and just had a bit of a disastrous season, to be honest. And in the friendlies, he's also looked a bit bereft of confidence, just doesn't really seem to be the same player. And on top of that, Gonçalo Guedes, who for Valencia plays on the left, as a wide midfielder or even as a genuine winger, he has been, he actually said in one of the post-match interviews after one of the friendlies that since he's been at the pre-World Cup, at the World Cup training camp with Portugal, Fernando Santos has him training as a centre forward, as Ronaldo's partner. So I think Santos really sees him as the guy there up top and not in his usual midfield position. So, like I say, there's a lot of debate. It seems that Santos has made that decision that is where Guedes will play. That is Guedes' best position, and it's got some advantages. He's more mobile than Andre Silva. There's one or two flickers of hope from the Portuguese point of view that they are getting a bit of chemistry together, Ronaldo and him. And I'd say, like I said earlier, I think of all the younger players who have been quite disappointing this tournament, Guedes is perhaps the one who has been least disappointing, if I can put it that way. He's put himself about, he's worked hard, he uses his pace a lot, he drops back a lot. I think against Morocco, he was actually dropping back and winning the ball more times than a lot of the midfielders. So I personally would be quite surprised if Andre Silva was brought in. I think there's more chance of seeing him on the pitch if, God forbid, from my point of view, I think you guys will be hoping if Iran, take the lead and Portugal really have to chase the game, then I think they'll, he'll probably throw on Andre Silva and have all three on the pitch at the same time.
And Tom, speaking about, obviously, this is just predictions and everything, but what formation, obviously I know it's a 4-3-3, but which players would you potentially think that Santos is going to start against Iran with the style of play, everything that you've seen from the Iranian perspective?
Yeah, it's really difficult to predict, Pasha. It's really difficult because this has this kind of is a bit of a double-edged sword that most people recognise that Portugal have really such a talented squad, more talented, I think, most people agree, than the squad which won the European Championship 2 years ago. But that causes its own problems because when things don't go so well, there's lots of cause for changing, to change the personnel, to change the system, to change the whole model of play, just because there are so many options. I mean, there's players like Manuel Fernandes, who hasn't seen the field yet. Adrian Silva, who's barely played. He brings something different to Portugal, a real kind of aggressive streak in midfield, which you could argue is something that they've been missing. So it's really endless, the number of possibilities and formations. I actually just think that, in such a crucial situation, I would be very surprised if Fernando Santos changed things up a lot, which, in other words, completely changed the system. And I think he possibly will stick to 4-4-2 or perhaps a little bit more like 4-3-3, but just in terms of personnel, perhaps just making that one change, bringing in Gelson Martins for Bernardo Silva, just to get a bit more pace going on that right-hand side and just give a bit more kind of dynamism to Portugal's midfield.
Arya, coming back to you, I just want to talk. Yeah, I'm gonna give you my Iran prediction for the lineup, and let's see if you agree or not, and just your thoughts about how they would approach, against Portugal. I believe it's gonna be the same back four we had against Spain, but instead of Ehsan Safi, Milad Mohammadi, which has been our regular and very consistent left back, and he's done such a fabulous job, and he's right now well known for his really mysterious throwing that he just unfortunately couldn't pull. And then I believe Ariza Jahanbakhsh is going to come in, but I do believe he's going to come in for Ansari Far. I believe Mehdi Taremi is going to retain his space. As you know, Iran has done such a great job on set pieces, and I don't believe if we're going to beat Portugal, I don't believe we're going to beat them in an open play. I believe it's going to come down to a set piece. As even Tom told me in Lisbon that, they have such an aging, center backs, and I can't believe they're still playing. Pep has been fabulous, but then again, they're still shaking that sense, and obviously Osman up top. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I agree with the defence. I think, I think Taremi and Jahanbakhsh will start. I think the only sort of doubt will be between, I think Ezzatullahi will start in that sort of deep midfield role. Osman up front. I think the only two ones that are kind of questionable are the two central mid roles next to the defensive midfielder. So the right centre midfielder. So if Omid Ibrahimi starts or if Vahid Amiri starts, it's really between if one of them gets dropped or if they both start. If one of them does get dropped, you're looking at Dejaga coming in, Shojaei, Gondos, get more of an attacking option. But we'll see. Because Queiroz could go defensive and then bring one of them on in the second half. But it won't be too different from sort of the first game to the second game. We'll just get maybe one or two changes. But the team look fresh. I mean, they've had 5 days rest. They've had 5 days to train for this game. They had 1 day rest yesterday. They seem in good spirits. So I don't think there's any fitness issues. There's only one injury to Ehsan, but I don't think there's going to be too many changes to this lineup. Other than that, I think, I agree with the set pieces. I think that, for sure that's one of our key sort of avenues to try to get a goal. But I also think that we can create chances in open play. Because against Spain, we saw Vahid Amiri's nutmeg on the PK, a couple of crosses by Reza Yan. We've had those chances open play, I think we can create against that old defence, as you say. I'm quite surprised Portugal didn't take Neto, the Zenit St. Petersburg player from Russia, to the World Cup. And also, I'm surprised that Ruben Diaz hasn't started at all, the young defender. So they've got a good they've got young defender, but they don't play them. So if they play Pepe and Font, it's going to be tough for them against Osman. I hope Osman scores.
Yeah. And Tom, would you say one of your biggest weaknesses might be that defending on set pieces, or is that a key strength of yours?
Well, good question. I think that to be perfectly fair, that was, like I mentioned to you in Lisbon, that was the one worry, the biggest worry among most Portugal fans going into this tournament. The central defence did look shaky, but to be honest, I don't think they've done too badly so far. You mentioned the Diego Costa goal in the first game. I think we've also got to hand it to Costa. That was a brilliant goal. Really, he just used his aggression, used skill. He's one of the best strikers in the world, and I think he showed it there. But in the game against Morocco, they sent cross after cross after cross into the box. And to be fair, Pep and Font, they dealt pretty well with most of those. So I'd be quite surprised if there is a change there. Exactly. I wouldn't be too worried from the Portuguese point of view, actually, about that situation. I think I'd be more worried about trying to, get to grips with midfield, because that's really where Portugal are disappointed. And, but when the crosses have come in, the defence actually hasn't been too bad, to be honest.
Arya, now coming back to you, where would you see Portugal's biggest weaknesses compared to the likes of Iran with the way we play? Obviously, I know we're going to talk about the center backs like Tom pointed out as well, but from your own perspective.
I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't watch Portugal's first game against Spain, but from what I know, from what I can tell from the Portuguese team, they do have. End of the day, they have great players. You know, it's not like they have a bad team. They have good players. You know, they've got strong, tough players. They got technical players. They got quick players. They're quite complete in that sense. I think you could say there's probably a little bit too much reliance on Cristiano Ronaldo in terms of against Morocco. In my opinion, after that first goal, they just couldn't. They didn't create that many chances that, in my opinion, showed that they are a team that can do it without him. If he's not there, I don't know if they can do it without him. I think they have to have him in the team. And if at any point Cristiano Ronaldo is getting marked, by Majid Hosseini or Pueli Ganji or whoever it is, I think it'll be tough for them to sort of create too many chances where they're going to score goals. I don't think Geds is a striker by nature, so I don't know if he's going to finish off every chance that comes at him. He might do, but I don't think he's that kind of player. I think he used to be more of a winger, a second striker type player. So they're really relying on Ronaldo's finishing ability. So I think that's one of the issues they might have, is if Iran do play a defensive game and Ronaldo is very isolated, which he can find space anywhere, but if he is isolated, then they might struggle to score goals, and that might really affect them mentally. And Iran can sort of capitalise on that mental collapse. But we'll see what happens.
Tom, a few more questions before we wrap this up, and thank you again so much for your time. Just basically like what Arya said, from your own perspective and just standpoint of just watching the reigning national team, is there some like defensive part of the department that you've seen that yes, this is definitely where Portugal needs to penetrate the reigning national team?
Perhaps, yeah, just coming back a little bit to what Arian said, the only thing I can say is guilty as charged, because Portugal fans hate it when people say that Portugal are a one-man team, and they just rely on Ronaldo. But we have to say at this tournament so far, that has been the case. There's no doubt about it. I actually kind of shudder to think where Portugal would have been without Ronaldo. So that is that is a worry, definitely. Portugal needs some of the other players to step up. As far as any weakness for the Iran game, again, I think what's impressed everybody about about Iran is just how they're defended. I mean, to be perfectly honest, they looked a lot less likely to concede goals against Spain than Portugal did. So from that point of view, it's just you have to say perhaps they have a stronger defensive unit than Portugal. Maybe perhaps also the way they defend as a team looked stronger than how Portugal did when they faced up against Spain. So so it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. I think it will be. We all knew this would be a very quite a cagey group, quite a low scoring group. I think that game Portugal against Spain was a bit of an anomaly just because of the early goal, and then it turned into a bit of a crazy game. But if you look at all the others, it's just been one goal, hasn't it? One goal, or yeah, exactly, just one goal in all the other games, which was pretty much how we expected things to be. So I don't really think this will be any different. I can't identify, to be perfectly honest, I can't identify an obvious weakness in the Iran game. I saw the Iran game, didn't see it live, but I saw it afterwards against Spain, and they were just so impressive that, from a defensive point of view, that just shows that Portugal are going to have some problems. I'd just like, again, to throw back a question at you. Pasha, it was interesting when we were speaking in Lisbon that you were saying that in the previous World Cup, Iran, again, put on, very good performances in general.
Right.
By the time the third game came around, you kind of saw that just the physical exertion, perhaps even the mental exertion, was so great that they perhaps didn't, perform up to their full ability in that third game. And you were suggesting that the fact that some of the players, I know most of the players now, or a lot of the players play in, big European leagues, but some of the players, home-based players, where perhaps the fitness levels and the intensity levels of the football isn't quite so great. Do you think there's any possibility? I know Arian said a while ago that he thought all the players looked fresh, but do you think there's a possibility that they could be a little bit of exhaustion coming into the squad, coming into this final game. I need some hope from you guys. Come on.
Arya, do you want to go first, or you want me to go ahead?
You go ahead.
All right. So Tom, that's what we all thought, but just the mannerism they've been playing, it's absolutely. I think even I shocked myself. It's just a do or die for them. It's like they're not. It's like this is their last day on the pitch or the world. To be honest, the way they were defending, against the like of Spain. But I'll give you an interesting fact. So Iran had 10 different players versus Spain and against Argentina 4 years earlier, and this side that that ended against Spain. They had 9 players under 25 years of old. And that is, something extraordinary from what Carlos Queiroz has done. Because it's a very young team. That's even Ari would assist to this.
Yeah, that's remarkable. It must be one of the youngest teams in the tournament.
Exactly, and if you look at Morsi Zopur Ali Ganji, the center back that a lot of people have been very impressed with, and he's been such a great center back just in general, but he's been partnered along with our captain, which he didn't get a call up, pretty much Alola Hosseini, and everybody, even myself, we were shocked that he didn't get a call up. But then you have him getting paired up against another young player that Arya is a huge fan of, and he's for his debut, Majid Hosseini against the likes of Spain.
On his birthday as well.
On his birthday, it's fantastic debut, and he's only had how many debuts? I mean, how many appearances?
Third cap.
Only like third cap, which is just phenomenal. So it goes on to show you that. Despite the fact that, we have such a young team, is that Queiroz has gotten these young boys to just fight for the badge, regardless of everything. And I think, like, the last World Cup, I think it was just more of, even if you remember in the pod, even Queiroz said it, is that, the issue I had was just picking 23 players for Brazil. Now I have 23. I have so many good players of which ones I need to select for this upcoming World Cup, which shows you the tremendous work he's done, And now coming back to your question, I don't think mentally they're going to be, exhausted, but I think deep down after that Spain game, apparently like our striker Osmun had a few tears in his eyes and everything because they did so well and they felt like they had to get something out of it. But I do believe they are ready. But then again, I also have that doubt as are they really really mentally ready? Are they really over that match against Spain? But I do believe they're going to be 100% just because we have Carlos Queiroz right now at the helm. If it was an Iranian manager, I'll tell you right now that no, we're probably just going to capitulate. Arya, what are your thoughts?
I think the mental side of it's fine. I think Queiroz is so psychologically, he's so smart in terms of getting his players ready. I think even against Bosnia in 2014, mentally, I don't think they were that bad. I think they were just a fitness. I mean, they were very, very unfit. I mean, we had 35-year-olds playing in that team. Like Soderi and Montazeri. They're very old players. They're all in their 30s at that time, and it was old. This time around, I think the fitness isn't an issue. They've been doing the domestic players, as Tom said. If you don't know Tom, they've been doing recovery training after every league weekend. So every weekend after the league finishes, the domestic players have been going to the Tehran Performance Elite Centre. I've been doing recovery training with the team belly staff, so they've been getting a lot.
Interesting, I suppose that's down to Queiroz, isn't it?
Yeah,
exactly. So that's something to look at. And then the other thing is the foreign-based players have been obviously just doing really well in their club. So I don't think the fitness is not an issue. The mental side of it will become an issue if they concede a goal. That could really affect them. But if they're tight and they don't concede a goal, I think they'll always be up for it. But we'll see. I mean, I think they're young, so they could break. Osmo, he cried a bit at the end of that game against Spain, but I think that could be a good thing actually, because it lets him relieve his stress and just prepare himself for that Portugal game on Monday.
And Tom, just coming back to what Arya said, a lot of these players don't even have the luxury. This is like their first ever time playing against their role models, pretty much that they grew up watching against the likes of Spain and Portugal. And now they're going up against them, which for the likes of Portugal and Spain is very natural because they always play against these world class teams, whether it's on a national level or on a club level. And Carlos Queiroz even said it for these Iranian boys, this is an honor to play against you because they won't even have this opportunity, which I think gives them an extra motivation to basically show the world and to these players that despite the fact that you might not know me, you might see me on video, I have something to give. I think that's just extra motivation. And as we Carlos Queiroz's man management is just absolutely sensational. It's just out of this world, and I think that's the reason why he's been always hailed as such a top coach. And just coming back to this, Tom, I want to talk about something. As much as it's Iran versus Portugal, we got to also look back the controversy that unfortunately happened in 2010 between Carlos Queiroz and Ronaldo, which is still beef between them. I think that's going to be also interesting going into this match. But what are your thoughts about that, especially the controversy that happened between them in 2010?
Yeah, well, you're right. I think even though Portugal got out of the group in that World Cup and only lost to the eventual champion Spain, and also lost quite narrowly in the end, 1-0. And as Carlos Queiroz reminded everyone the other day, to an offside goal, he was lamenting the fact that VAR didn't exist in 2010. But yeah, you're right. At the end of that game, and really at the end of Carlos Queiroz's reign at Portugal, it ended a little bit on a sour note. And there's a quite famous bit of footage where Ronaldo's kind of storming off the pitch after that game against Spain, and a journalist asked him, what went wrong? Why did Portugal lose? And he just said, ask the coach, and stormed down the tunnel. So and also Ronaldo under Queiroz, really that was perhaps Queiroz's biggest failure. He really had a very poor time under Queiroz, who just didn't manage to get the best out of him like most of the other Portugal managers have. So yeah, they've got that bit of history. I think, to be honest, that's a long time ago now, 8 years ago. So much has happened since then, both in the careers of Ronaldo and Queiroz. And even Queiroz, like I said, he left Portugal under a bit of a cloud. There was a bit of a kind of, I wouldn't say scandal, but it's a bit messy, basically, the way he left the Portugal job. He got blamed for making the job of the drug testers difficult. I think that was the official explanation for why he was sacked. Although results also, the first result of the following qualifying campaign for Euro 2012, that was a really bad game. So it kind of things just came to a head and they parted ways. But I think since then, they've kind of, I think that's water under the bridge pretty much. Queiroz always seems to be very accommodating when he's talking to the Portuguese press. Like I say, he's appeared quite a lot in this World Cup. I know there's a lot of Portuguese journalists at the Iranian camp, keeping tabs on them because people are interested in Queiroz, obviously. Like I said, that ended badly, but nobody doubts he's been very important in the whole history of the Seleção. And, he was the man who really, you could argue, made Portugal, kind of laid the foundation for Portugal becoming an elite team, or, maybe if not an elite international team, just maybe in the second tier. He of course led the club, led the country to the World Youth Championship twice in a row, 1989 and 1991. He kind of was the man who brought through the golden generation. It's very interesting, you talking about how he's doing something similar in some ways at Iran, kind of laying the foundations for a strong future for the club, so for the country, for the national team. So I think there's a lot of respect for Queiroz. I think even probably from Ronaldo. I think, and of course, Queiroz has said some very nice things about Ronaldo. Almost every time he does something amazing, which has happened so often. He's been very complimentary about him. So, to be perfectly honest, I don't think that will be much of an issue. I don't think that will be even talked about too much. I think that was then. This is now.
Fantastic points, Tom. Arya, last few questions before we ask, Tom's prediction, our own prediction. As you know, Carlos Queiroz, I believe in an interview today, said that, in his tenure working as Iran's manager for 8 years now, that against Portugal, it's the biggest match in his career, as a coach for Iran, and pretty much for a lot of these Iranian players, just and whatnot. What do you make out of these comments?
Yeah, I mean it is, and I think the players. I think even though they're a bit young, they're still pretty much, reaching the peak of their career. I think they're all ready for it. I don't think that there's going to be a big, I don't think they're going to be starstruck by, Cristiano Ronaldo, because they weren't against Spain. It was a big game as well, and they did well. I think against Portugal, it'll be no different. I think they'll just go out there professional, do their job, and hopefully get the result. I think, like Reza Alyan was saying in one of his recent interviews, he was saying that he wants to be realistic. He can't just say, Iran's going to beat Portugal. It's not like you don't just say that out of nowhere. You kind of have to be realistic and say, okay, Iran's going to go out there and try their best. And I think that's the most important thing. I think Queiroz, he'll go out and he'll put out his best lineup. He'll do what he can to get his team ready beforehand. And I think the players just have to go out there, listen to what Queiroz says, and play their game. Do what they can to get the result. But Portugal is a tough team, and I think Queiroz also, because he's from Portugal, it's a big game for him personally. But it's also a big game, it's a big game for his career. So it's a massive game, even for the coaching staff, because we've got about 7 or 8 Portuguese coaching staff. So it's a big game for the whole, for everyone, I would say.
Yeah, especially considering we have a lot of now, Portuguese coaches now coaching in Iran, and Rui Tavares, now that he's working still with Zoban, even said that Carlos Queiroz opened the doors for Portuguese, coaches to coach in Iran, which there's still a love between the two countries, and it's just great. But now, just the last points, guys. We just want to wrap this up. And Tom, again, thank you so much for your time. It's always brilliant to listen to you, just talk about Portugal and just just your analysis, just even on the reigning team is. What are your predictions? It's going to be a belter of a match, but what are your predictions for this match?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a belter of the match in terms of tension and just World Cup drama maybe, and just the nation, the whole fate of a nation. Millions of people in Iran, millions of people in Portugal, millions of immigrants from both countries all around the world will be glued to the TV, just watching every second of this, biting their nails. I think it's going to be a great occasion from that point of view. In terms of the actual match itself, I'm not sure it's going to be a belter in terms of, attacking play or goals. Mm-hmm. I think, everything we've just discussed really suggests perhaps the opposite. But, that doesn't make it any less of a fascinating spectacle. I actually think, I've written a couple of previews already, thought about this a lot, and I actually have gone for a 0-0 draw. I think that Portugal aren't firing on all cylinders. Iran have impressed everyone this tournament so far. I think there's going to be a hell of a lot of tension in both camps. I think it's going to be a real attritional game. I don't think there'll be many chances, and I think at the end of the day, they will probably cancel each other out. In some ways, that's what I'm hoping for, because Portugal will get through, of course, and that's the most important thing. In other ways, of course, I'd love Portugal to win the game and finish top, because I think, looking ahead, I think the team who finishes top in this group could actually, have a good path going forward in a tournament. But yeah, I think the most important thing now for both sides definitely is, and Fernando Santos actually said this, don't ask about possible future opposition, don't ask about anything other than this next game, because that is our World Cup now at this moment, as in, and I know Queiroz said the same thing, didn't he? This is their World Cup, and yes. There's really no point thinking about the next step if you're not even going to be there. So yeah, I'm actually going for, it's not an exciting prediction, but I'm going for a 0-0, and just a great match. I think Iran plough out to the World Cup with their heads held high, and Portugal squeeze through. That's what I'm hoping for. Sorry to say that. No,
that's what
I was going to say. You expected me to say anything different?
No, that's exactly what I was about to say. Is that my heart says that Iran somehow is going to do the impossible and just defeat Portugal, but my head says it's going to be like a 1-1 draw, or even same thing as you mentioned, Tom. But it's going to be it's just going to be defense versus attack, and then as even Carlos Queiroz pinpointed that this is our World Cup final. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen. But Arya, just give us your last thoughts before you wrap this up.
I think it will be a case of the second half. I think it will come down to fitness. I think Iran will play that defensive game at the start of the first half, and I think Iran. I think Iran's a fitter team. I think it's a strong statement, but I think Iran's a fitter team. I think. When someone Godus or Dejaga, someone creative comes on, I think we can open up gaps in that defence and possibly score goals. I think Iran could win the game with a small scoreline, but I think the score will be 1-1. But I hope we win the game.
Thank you guys so much for your time. I just cannot wait for this match that will be happening on Monday. Tom, all the way from Lisbon, thank you again so much for coming on, my friend. We'll definitely have you on more, and we wish you all the best as well, because I know you'll be supporting Portugal. And Aria, my friend, let's see what happens with the reigning national team. But thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Sorry, Pasha, I just lost you for a second there, but thank you very much. Great to speak to you. Enjoy the game on Monday, but don't enjoy it too much, please.
Thank you, Tom. That concludes our talk with Tom Gunder. Tom, thank you so much for coming on, my friend. Folks, thank you again for the support. If there's anything you would like us to talk or share or talk about, literally about anything, or you just want to send us positive vibes, as always, we get a lot of emails. Thank you guys for the support. Is at mail@goldbazanpodcast.com. Check out all our episodes on our website, goldbazanpodcast.com. We're even on iTunes. Thank you guys again for the support, and we're hoping for a win against Portugal.